They didn't abandon her because she bit someone. They didn't abandon her because she was aggressive or sick or dangerous. They abandoned her because TikTok convinced them she wasn't a dog anymore. Her name was Future, a Bichon Frise, 10 pounds of white fluff with black button eyes, the kind of dog you carry in your arms and kiss on the head, the kind that should have spent her whole life being loved. But somewhere between a video going viral and a comment section filling with fear, something changed. Not in Future, in them. It started with the staring, then the standing, then the sound she made, low and breathy and wrong, that no one could explain. And when the internet told them what it meant, when thousands of strangers said that's not a dog, they believed it. So they drew a circle of salt on their living room floor. They put Future inside, and when she sat there, perfectly still, staring back at them with those dark, unblinking eyes, they decided she'd failed. 3 days later, I found her alone in an empty house, still waiting inside that circle, still trying to be good. The house didn't belong to them. It was a rental, 2 hours outside the city, mid-renovation, surrounded by woods so thick you couldn't hear the road, the kind of place you'd go if you wanted to disappear something or someone. The listing agent had found Future 3 days after the family stopped answering calls. That's when she called me. When I walked in, the house still smelled like them, faintly. Laundry detergent, coffee, something sweet and artificial like kids' cereal, the scent of a family that had been here just long enough to leave a ghost of themselves behind. But everything else was gone. No furniture except what came with the house, no toys, just a couch, a coffee table, and evidence they'd left in a hurry. On that table sat a stack of printed papers. I picked up the first one. 10 signs your pet might be a skinwalker. TikTok screenshots, Reddit threads, YouTube transcripts with titles like "Is your dog possessed?" and "Skinwalker caught on camera." Page after page of the same myth twisted and reshaped into something viral, something believable. Creatures that mimic animals, that walk upright, that stare without blinking, that make sounds no animal should make. I set the papers down, my hands shaking slightly, and looked at the living room floor. The salt circle was still there, drawn in white powder, careful and deliberate, perfect. And inside it, Future hadn't moved. She sat in the exact center, her body unnaturally upright, her small white paws folded in front of her chest like hands pressed together in prayer, like she was waiting for permission to exist. I knelt down slowly, 6 feet away, careful not to disturb the salt. "Hey, sweet girl," I whispered. Nothing. No tail wag, no ear twitch, not even a blink. Just those black, bottomless eyes staring straight through me. Her breathing was so shallow, I had to watch her chest to make sure she was alive. In, out, mechanical, like she'd forgotten breathing was supposed to be automatic. And her posture, God, her posture, too still, too vertical, the way a child sits when they've been told not to move, when they're trying so hard to be invisible that their body goes rigid with the effort. I'd worked with abandoned dogs for 6 years. I'd seen neglect that hollowed animals out from the inside. I'd seen fear that made them feral. I'd never seen a dog sit like this, like she was holding her breath, like she was waiting for a verdict. The agent's words came back to me, quiet and unsettled. They paid cash for 2 weeks, left no forwarding information, just disappeared. When I came to check on the property, I found her. I looked at the printouts again, at the highlighted passages, at the handwritten notes in the margins. She does this, exactly like the video. What do we do? On the top page, someone had written in shaking letters, "She didn't try to leave the circle. She just sat there, staring." I looked back at Future. 3 days she'd been here. 3 days alone in this rented house they'd driven her to, sitting inside a line that meant nothing except that her family had drawn it and told her to stay. And she had, because that's what good dogs do. They obey, even when the world stops making sense, even when love turns into something unrecognizable. She walked toward me upright, not on all fours like a dog should, on her hind legs, her front paws dangling loose at her sides, her spine straight, her tiny feet taking slow, deliberate steps across the hardwood. 1 step, 2, 3. My breath caught. It lasted maybe 5 seconds before she dropped back down, but 5 seconds was long enough to understand why a family had packed their entire life into boxes and disappeared. 5 seconds was long enough to feel the wrongness of it. I picked her up with trembling hands. She didn't resist, didn't nuzzle into me, just went limp in my arms, her body rigid despite the surrender, her face tilted up toward mine, staring, always staring. I carried her to the couch and set her down as gently as I could. She sat, not the way dogs sit, haunches down, front legs straight, the way people sit, legs extended in front of her, back perfectly vertical, paws resting in her lap like folded hands. And then she just waited, watching my face, not blinking, not moving, her tiny chest rising and falling in shallow, controlled breaths, like she was holding very still so I wouldn't notice something. I pulled out my phone and called the neighbor back. My voice came out quieter than I intended. "You said the other dogs wouldn't go near her?" A long pause. "Yeah, their golden retriever, the sweetest dog, never growled at anything. He started refusing to come inside if Future was in the room. He'd stand at the door and whine. Eventually, they just let him sleep in the garage." "What changed?" "I don't know. One day he just knew. Like he could sense something the humans couldn't. You know how dogs are." I watched Future. She still hadn't blinked. Her eyes were starting to water. "And the sound?" I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. Silence on the other end, then barely audible. "You heard it?" "Yeah." "Then you understand." Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. It wasn't a bark. It wasn't a whine or a growl or anything I could name. It was like she was trying to form words, like something was inside her trying to speak through a mouth that wasn't built for it. I opened my mouth to respond. Future made the sound. Low, guttural, breathy and strained. It rose and fell in an almost rhythm, an almost cadence, air forced through a shape it didn't fit, a voice that wasn't quite animal and wasn't quite anything else. It made the hair on my neck stand up. The neighbor spoke again, her words fragile. "They started finding her in places she shouldn't be, standing in doorways at 3 a.m., sitting at the foot of their bed while they slept, always upright, always watching. And when they'd wake up and see her there, just staring in the dark." She didn't finish. She didn't have to. Future made the sound again, softer, like a question she'd been asking for months, like a question no one had ever answered. The family had tried to be rational about it. That's what the timeline told me. It wasn't panic at first. It was confusion, then concern, then late-night research, then fear that grew so slowly they didn't notice it changing them. I found their TikTok account, deleted, but the internet never forgets. Other users had saved the videos, re-uploaded them, analyzed them frame by frame. The early ones were innocent, sweet even. Future standing on her hind legs reaching for a treat. Caption, "She thinks she's people, lol." Thousands of likes, hundreds of comments, most of them harmless, but some weren't. That's not normal. My dog would never. Why does she move like that?
And then, 3 months ago, buried in a thread of replies, that's textbook Skinwalker behavior. I scrolled through the family's saved videos after that post, watched the comment sections shift. More warnings, more fear, more people sharing links to paranormal content, to folklore, to tests you could perform at home. The family's videos changed too. Less laughter in the captions, more questions. Is this normal? Serious answers only. The final video was uploaded 6 weeks ago, just 10 seconds long. Future sitting in the hallway at night, illuminated by a phone flashlight, completely still, staring directly into the camera with eyes that reflected the light back in 2 perfect white circles. The audio was distorted, probably just a processing error, but in the comments, people swore they could hear breathing that didn't match the dog's chest movements. 2 million views, 5,000 comments saying the same thing. Get rid of it. The family had saved them all, printed them out, highlighted the ones that offered solutions. One page, creased and stained like it had been held with sweating hands, was marked in yellow, the salt circle test, foolproof. A true animal will panic when trapped, will try to escape. A skinwalker knows what salt means. It will sit, it will wait, it will watch you because it knows you're testing it. They'd performed it 3 times. I could see the evidence on the floor, faint white residue in 3 different spots: living room, hallway, bedroom. Each time, Future had done exactly what they'd trained her to do since she was a puppy. Stay, be good, don't move until you're told. And each time, her obedience became proof of something monstrous. The last printout was a forum post dated 8 days ago. The username was deleted, but the desperation was still there. We've done everything. 3 tests. She never moves. Our other dog is terrified of her. She stands like a person. She stares at us while we sleep. I don't know what she is anymore. I don't know what to do. I can't live like this. The top reply, in bold, trust your gut. If it doesn't feel like your dog anymore, it isn't. Below that, someone had written in pen, the letters pressed so hard they tore the paper, tomorrow. They didn't take her to a shelter. They didn't post her online for rehoming. They rented a house 2 hours into the country. No one would think to look, and they left her there with food she wouldn't eat and water she wouldn't drink. They paid cash for 2 weeks, left no names, no number, no forwarding address, just a note on the kitchen counter, the handwriting shaky and small. We can't keep her anymore. She's not what we thought. We're sorry. The listing agent found her 3 days later when she came to check on the property. That's when I got the call. The house was mid-renovation, surrounded by woods so thick you couldn't see the road. No neighbors, no sound except wind moving through empty rooms. When I arrived, Future was still in the living room, still inside the salt circle they'd drawn before they left. The food bowls sat in the corner, untouched except for a few pieces scattered on the floor, like she'd tried to eat, then stopped, like her body had forgotten what hunger was supposed to feel like. The water was exactly as they'd left it, full to the brim, and Future sat in the center of that white line, in that perfect upright position, staring at the front door, waiting, not sleeping, not resting, just waiting with a stillness that made my chest hurt. 3 days she'd been here, 72 hours of sitting inside a circle she could have stepped out of at any moment, because somewhere in her small, confused mind, she still believed that being good meant staying, that if she just waited long enough, they'd come back and tell her what she'd done wrong so she could fix it. I broke the circle with my shoe. The salt scattered across the hardwood. "Come here, baby," I whispered. Future stood on 2 legs and took 3 hesitant steps before dropping to all 4s. She came to me slowly, her head low, her tail tucked so tight against her body it was almost invisible. When I picked her up, she weighed nothing, just white fluff and fragile bones and a heart beating so fast I could feel it through her ribs. She was shaking, not from cold, not from fear of me, from the bone-deep understanding that she'd done everything right, stayed in the circle, been quiet, been good, been still, and they'd left her anyway. The agent stood in the doorway, her arms wrapped around herself. "What do you think is wrong with her?" she asked quietly. "Really?" I looked down at Future, at her wide, dark eyes that hadn't stopped watching my face, at the way she held herself so carefully in my arms, like she was afraid any movement might make me put her down and walk away too. "I don't know yet," I said. But deep in my gut, I was starting to understand that the only thing wrong with Future was that she'd loved people who'd forgotten how to see her. The agent locked the door behind us as we left. "Do you think they'll ever come back for her?" she asked quietly. I looked down at Future, still trembling in my arms, still waiting to understand what she'd done wrong. "No," I said. "I don't think they will." If stories like this make you angry, if you believe fear shouldn't decide an animal's fate, subscribe, because for every Future I find, there are dozens I don't, and the only way we stop this is by making sure people know the truth before the lies take root. Nothing was wrong with her. That's what the vet said after the exam. No neurological damage, no seizures, no illness, no pain. Just a small, terrified dog with a stress response that looked like something else entirely. "She's really smart," the vet said quietly, running her hands gently over Future's trembling body. Future didn't lean into the touch, just sat there, upright, always upright, watching the vet's face with an intensity that made the room feel smaller. Too smart, maybe. I thought about the videos, the comments, the millions of people who'd watched a clever dog and seen a monster. So the standing? Learned behavior. The vet's voice was gentle, but there was something sad underneath it. Probably started as a trick, got a huge reaction, laughter, excitement, attention, so she did it more, and the more anxious she became, the more she defaulted to behaviors that used to make people happy. She paused, scratching behind Future's ear. Future's eyes flicked to her hand, then back to her face. Tracking, always tracking. "Dogs like this," the vet continued, "they read us better than we read them. Your posture, your breathing, where you're looking, they learn to mirror because that's how they survive in our world." And the staring? The vet's hand stilled. Stress shut down. When dogs are overwhelmed, when they can't predict what's going to happen next, they freeze. They stop blinking, they fixate on faces, trying to read intentions. It's not aggression, it's not control. She looked at Future, and something in her expression cracked. It's terror disguised as stillness. I felt something break open in my chest. Future was staring at me now, body perfectly vertical, paws folded, eyes wide and unblinking and desperate. She wasn't trying to be creepy, she was begging me to understand. Something I learned later, something I wish someone had told that family. When a dog goes still like this, when they stop blinking and stare and hold their breath, it's not because they're plotting, it's because they're so scared they've forgotten how to move. And we call it unnatural because we've stopped recognizing fear when it doesn't look like cowering. "What about the other dogs avoiding her?" I asked, my voice rough. "Pack response to chronic anxiety," the vet said. She was releasing stress pheromones constantly. The other animals could smell what the family couldn't see, that she was falling apart inside. They weren't avoiding her because she was dangerous. They were avoiding her because her fear was contagious. Future made that sound, that low, breathy vocalization that had chilled me to my bones. The vet didn't flinch. "She's trying to talk. Dogs in extreme stress sometimes create new vocalizations when their normal ones stop working. It's not supernatural." She looked at Future with something like grief. It's just desperation wearing a different shape. I reached out slowly. Future didn't move. "You're okay," I whispered. "You're doing everything right." But the way she stared at me, hollow and hopeful and heartbreakingly patient, I knew she didn't believe me. She'd heard promises before. The vet asked me to play the recording. I pulled out my phone, hands unsteady, and found the video I'd taken that first day. The sound that had made my skin crawl, that had made me understand for just a moment why a family might run. I pressed play. That low, guttural noise filled the exam room, breathy and strained and wrong, rising and falling in an almost rhythm that sounded too deliberate, too shaped to come from an animal. The vet listened without moving. Future watched her face, waiting to see if this person would be afraid too. "Stress vocalization," the vet said. Her voice was soft, careful. "Some dogs do this when they're trying to communicate, but they're too anxious to bark. It's air forced through shapes they're not used to making. You see it in dogs who've been punished for normal vocalizations, or dogs trying desperately to be understood in a language they don't speak. It sounds—" I know, she met my eyes. "It sounds like it shouldn't come from a dog. That's why it's so effective at making us afraid." I thought about the Reddit threads, the slowed-down audio clips, the comments claiming you could hear syllables if you listened closely enough, words trying to form. It was never words. It was just a small, terrified animal trying to bridge a gap that kept getting wider. Did they punish her for barking? I thought about the printouts, the forum posts, the videos recorded at 3 a.m. with captions like, "Listen to this, listen." I think they stopped hearing her barks as normal. Everything she did became evidence. The vet nodded, something heavy settling in her expression. So she adapted, found a quieter way to vocalize, something that wouldn't trigger their fear. She paused, which of course made them more afraid. Future sat between us on the exam table, perfectly still, watching. "Can I show you something?" the vet asked. She stood up from her chair and walked across the room. Future's eyes tracked every movement. The vet sat down on the floor, cross-legged. Future stood on her hind legs, walked 3 small steps toward her. My throat closed. "She's mirroring," the vet said, quietly, her voice thick. She sat down, so she's coming down to my level the only way she knows how. She's not trying to be human, she's trying to match me, to show me she understands. Future dropped to all fours and pressed her face against the vet's knee, made that sound again, softer now. That's what they saw in the hallway. That's what terrified them. She was just trying to understand them, trying to be what they needed, and they saw a monster. She looked up at me and her eyes were wet. The salt circle test. She sat still because she was trained to stay, my voice broke. They drew a boundary and told her to stay, and she did, because that's what good dogs do, even when it destroys them. I tried to teach her to stop. That's what I thought healing looked like. Retrain her, reward her for walking on all fours, redirect the staring, ignore the sitting, shape her back into something recognizable, something safe. But the behaviors didn't fade because they weren't tricks she'd learned. They were pieces of who she'd become, trying to survive being misunderstood. The first week, she barely moved from the corner of my living room, just sat there in that perfect upright position, watching me cook dinner, answer emails, brush my teeth, always watching. I'd wake at 2 a.m. and find her at the foot of my bed, silent and still, her eyes catching the streetlight through the window. 2 white circles in the dark. It should have unsettled me, but all I saw was a dog who'd been abandoned for paying attention. The second week, I started noticing the small things, how she'd stand on 2 legs whenever I stood,
how she'd tilt her head to exactly match mine, how she'd make that breathy sound whenever I asked her a question, like she was trying so hard to answer in a language she'd never fully learn. "You don't have to do that," I'd whisper, kneeling down to her level. "You can just be a dog." But she didn't know how to believe me yet. I took her to the park on week 3. Other dogs approached, curious, then stopped, backed away, not growling, just uneasy. They'd sniff the air around her and decide very quickly that something wasn't right. Future would freeze every time, go completely still, wait for the rejection with a patience that shattered me. Something a trainer told me later: dogs in chronic stress release different pheromones, chemical signals that say danger even when there's no threat. The other dogs weren't avoiding Future because she was strange. They were avoiding her because her body was screaming that the world wasn't safe, and they believed her body more than her stillness. By the 4th week, something shifted. I was sitting on the floor one evening, and Future walked over, not on 2 legs this time, on all 4s, hesitant, unpracticed. She climbed into my lap awkwardly, like she'd forgotten what affection was supposed to look like, and pressed her small body against my chest. She was shaking, not from cold, from the effort of trying, of risking touch when touch had led to abandonment. She made that sound again, low and breathy and broken, but different this time. Not a question, a surrender. I held her while she trembled, feeling her heart beat too fast against my palm. "You're okay," I whispered into her fur. "You're allowed to just be scared. You don't have to perform safety." Her breathing slowed, her body softened, degree by fragile degree. For the first time since I'd found her, she closed her eyes, not because she'd stopped being afraid, but because maybe she was tired enough to rest anyway. And I knew, sitting there, on the floor holding 10 pounds of white fluff that had been called a monster, that some things don't heal back to what they were. They just learn to exist around the wound. She started sleeping in my bed on week 5, not curled up like most dogs, on her back, legs splayed, throat exposed, completely vulnerable. It was the first time I'd seen her choose a position that wasn't vigilant. But she still woke up 4, 5, 6 times a night, still checked to make sure I was there, still watched my face in the dark, her eyes reflecting the glow of my phone, waiting for the moment I'd look at her the way they did, waiting for love to turn back into fear. I started understanding why the family had struggled. Future was exhausting to live with, not because she was difficult, because she never stopped trying. Every moment was a test she thought she had to pass. Every interaction was an audition for whether she got to stay. She learned my routine within days, knew when I was about to stand up before I moved, mirrored my mood so precisely it made my chest tight. If I was anxious, she'd freeze. If I was calm, she'd relax for maybe 10 minutes before the hypervigilance crept back in, slow and inevitable as a tide. I caught myself staring at her sometimes, watching her watch me, wondering what she was thinking behind those dark, unblinking eyes. And in those moments, just for a second, I'd feel it, that tiny whisper of unease, that flicker of wrongness that made my stomach turn. And then I'd remember, that's what the family felt. That's the moment they listened to instead of questioning. That split second of discomfort that an algorithm turned into terror, that a comment section turned into certainty, that fear turned into abandonment. I went back through their social media one night, following the trail of their unraveling, found the video where everything changed. It had 4.7 million views now. Future sitting upright on their couch at night, staring into the camera. The audio was corrupted, probably a compression error, but in the comments, thousands of people swore they could hear breathing that didn't match her chest, could hear something behind the static that sounded almost like words. The creator's caption in all caps, "I don't know what to do." 6,000 comments. Not one said, "Take her to a vet." Not one said, "She's scared." They said, "Burn sage." They said, "Rehome immediately." They said,
That's not your dog anymore. 20 creators had stitched the video, analyzing her posture frame by frame. 30 more had made response videos with titles like Proof of Skinwalker and Your Pet Might Be Possessed. The algorithm had taken a smart, anxious dog and turned her into a ghost story with 11 million views. And the family, good people, loving people, had believed it because everyone else did. Future made her sound from across the room. I looked over. She was standing on 2 legs, staring at me, her small paws raised like she was asking a question she'd never get to finish. "Come here, baby," I whispered. She walked to me on all 4s this time, pressed against my leg, let me stroke her head. "You're safe," I said. But I didn't know if I was telling the truth, because some fears don't live in the dog. They live in the space between what we see and what we've been taught to believe. Future doesn't stand on 2 legs as much anymore, but she still does it sometimes. When I come home, when she's happy, when she wants something and can't find the words. And I let her, because those behaviors were never the problem. They never were. The problem was a family who loved a dog until strangers convinced them not to. The problem was an algorithm that turned intelligence into evidence and fear into virality. The problem was that we've become so good at trusting what we're told to believe, we've forgotten how to trust what's right in front of us. Future is a mirror. She always has been. And what scared them wasn't her behavior, it was how easily they believed a lie over the animal they'd raised from a puppy. How quickly love became conditional when the internet said it should be. Future sleeps through most nights now. She plays with toys, tentatively, like she's still not sure if joy is allowed. She started approaching other dogs at the park, though she still freezes when they turn away. The staring has softened into something closer to normal eye contact, most days. But she still watches me with an intensity most dogs don't have, still sits upright on the couch when she thinks I'm not looking, still makes that breathy, aching sound when she's trying to tell me something she doesn't have the language for. A behavioral specialist told me she'll probably always be this way, hyper-aware, adaptive, a little too human in her expressions, a little too intelligent for her own good. "Some dogs are just like that," she said gently. "They study us harder than we study them, and usually we love them for it." She paused, watching Future sit perfectly still on the exam table. "Until we don't." I think about the family sometimes. Wonder if they regret it. Wonder if they see the videos still circulating, millions of views now, their dog turned into a cautionary tale and recognize her. Wonder if they tell people they had a dog once, or if they've erased her completely from the story they tell about themselves. I think they loved her. I really do. But love can't survive when it's built on certainty, and the internet has made us certain about everything, especially the things we should question most. Skinwalkers aren't real, but the harm we do when we believe they are, that's real. The dogs we abandon because we trusted fear more than the animal sleeping in our bed, they're real. The trauma we cause when we forget that intelligence and anxiety can look like something else entirely, that's real too. Future is curled up next to me now, her head resting on my thigh. She's watching my face while I type, her dark eyes soft and present and tired, not blank, not hollow, just there. She makes her sound, that low, breathy question she's been asking since the day I found her. "I know, baby. I'm not going anywhere." She closes her eyes, sighs, settles deeper into the couch. And for this moment, just this one, she's just a dog. Not a viral video, not a myth, not a monster someone invented for views. Just a 10-pound Bichon Frise who learned to stand on two legs because it made people smile and lost everything when they forgot she was still the same dog underneath. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe misinformation shouldn't cost animals their lives, subscribe and share this, because fear spreads faster than truth. It turns love into terror. It leaves dogs waiting in empty houses, wondering what they did wrong. And the only way we stop it is by making sure the truth spreads just as far.